Okay, class. Let's begin our chapter Money and Credit from Economics, chapter 3. Right? So, till yesterday's session, we have seen different sources of credit. We have learned about formal sources of credit. We have learned about informal sources of credit. We have seen their limitations. We have seen their advantages. So, now let's move on to the next slide, that is, do credit is always beneficial? That means, is credit always beneficial for the borrower or not? Right? So here, credit sometimes may be burden for the borrower and may lead to debt trap. Credit can be a burden mostly in the following circumstances. So here, I have noted down some of the points which is showing that credit can be a burden also. It can lead to a debt trap. Okay, so let's see what are those points. If borrowed at a very high rate of interest, if borrowed money used for unproductive purpose, if invested in a business with high risk of failure, delay in repayment of loan increases the burden as the amount grow in cumulative interest. Failure to repay the loan may cause charge on the property of the borrower which has been kept as collateral security against the loan. Taking fresh loan to repay the previous loan and fall in debt trap, recovery from which becomes very difficult. That means these are some of the points which is showing you that credit can also be a problem. Credit can also be a debt trap. If we are taking the credit or if we are borrowing the money at very high rate of interest, not using it for a productive purpose, using it in a business which there can be high risk failure, delay in repaying the loan, failure to repay the loan, creating more problem by taking another loan to repay the previous loan. So these are some of the problems which can come in a person's life if he or she is taking credit or borrowing loan constantly. Right? So max to max, we should try to see that whatever resources we are having, according to that resources, according to that amount or that capital or that money, we are using it for our business or using it for any other fulfillment of our want. If at most we are necessary and we are sure that we are going to repay it back properly, please then only you should go for credit. Otherwise, you should not go because it can cause burden, which can cause debt trap for a person. Status of lending and borrowing in India. In India, both formal and informal sources of credit is working simultaneously. Major part of the formal sector lending goes to the large industrial sector. Small borrowers, that is small farmers, labor class and small artisans and businessmen, etc. They mostly borrow from informal sector. But we should always see to it that we try to buy it from a formal sector rather than in informal sector. Now, there are some of the problems of borrowing from informal sector, as I told you earlier. They take high rate of interest and any conditions for repayment can be kept. There may be any undue and unnecessary interference in the utilization of fund. The people or the money, or the traders or the money lenders to get back or to recover their loan, they can do any kind of unjust and unethical means of recovery from the borrower. And if they fail to repay the loan amount, it may also lead to loss of property. So we should be always sure to see that we don't take loan from informal sector. We should always go for formal sectors. There are banks, there are cooperatives, there are self-help groups, government banks and all those who are giving at low rate of interest. They are lending the amount. They are giving the loan. So we should mainly and mostly go for formal sectors. Why small farmers borrow from informal sector? Now here a question comes that when formal sector is there, why do the small farmers go to informal sector? It can be the problem that they hesitate to go to the bank. They are worried about the papers, the documents, the environment. They are worried. They are illiterate. That time they are worried. They don't have the proper awareness. They don't have proper collateral security. They may be borrowing for unproductive purpose. They don't have proper documentation. They don't know how to go to bank, how to, which desk they have to go, to which counter they have to go, what formalities they have to do. So what do is, for easy accessibility of money, they directly go to the money lenders who are going to take high rate of interest from them, and which is going to again create a problem for the small farmers by making a debt trap for them, and that debt trap is going to bring that farmer lot and lot of burden. That thing the farmers don't understand. What do they think is okay, easy accessible of money, let's go to the money lender or let's go to the trader. But at the end, what things they are going to face, that has to be always analyzed by the people, that okay, if I am going for this sector, will it be helpful for us or is it going to create any problem for us? That has to be always seen by the people. Is it important to protect the borrower in informal sector? Majority of the borrowers of the formal sector are poor who need financial protection. To protect the borrowers from the exploitation of the speculative money lenders is very much necessary. Our government has put forward so many schemes, so many people who go to the cooperative banks and all. If you go, there are people there who will come and help you out. What happened, which form you have to fill, what do you want, they help us. So we should always try to do that. Hesitating from going to somewhere is not a solution to the problem. Just go and see. Okay, you are afraid of going to big banks, private banks and all. There are government banks, there are cooperative banks, there are self-help groups which will help you in all these things. So you should always try to go for a formal sector from where you can get the credit. Informal sector lending and the interest earned on it is not taxed and therefore they are considered as black money. This often leads to conflict between the borrower and the lender, and sometimes it creates critical law and order situation. Unproductive loans can be used to finance illegal business. So all these kinds of things will not happen in formal sector. That has to be always seen by the public, that what are the things, why should we go for formal and not go for informal. Measures to protect the borrowers of informal sectors are increasing the accessibility of formal sector lending by expanding banking network, easy and liberal documentation, flexible loan arrangement, reserved and compulsory lending for rural and small scale industries, awareness and campaign. Make the people understand that bank is not a place where you have to go hesitatively. You can go there, and the banks and the government should also make the documentation little bit easy and liberal so that the people don't start facing problem in going to bank. Right? Mostly illiterate people and those people who hesitate from going to urban areas and going to banks and all, they of course they will go to see to a nearby accessibility. Okay, near my house there is a money lender, let me go there. That will what they will think. So the compulsory lending for rural and small scale industry should be done by the bank, and awareness campaigning should be also done where the people will understand the difference between the formal and the informal sector. Next is cooperative society. Now, what is cooperative society? It's an organization of people. They join for a mutual help. Here, what is taken into consideration is development of the member. That is the main purpose, not earning profit. They are registered under the Cooperative Society Act, and minimum 10 members are required to form a cooperative. Can be a cooperative, banks are there. So there if you go, there are people for the development of the members, not for earning the profit. So there are different cooperatives are there. So other than cooperative banks, there are cooperative societies. Farmers Cooperative Society, Producers Cooperative Society, Weavers Cooperative Society, Customers Cooperative Society, and Cooperative Credit Society. This is not the bank. We have the different societies which are formed by some of the members together to understand the problem of the people and to find out some source to help them in the way of credit facility. Now, what is the role of cooperative society in capital formation is cooperative society helps to accumulate its capital with the contribution of members, and sometimes they take loan from the banks and NBFI in the name of cooperative and use the fund for collective investment or grant loan to the needy members of the society. They charge low rate of interest as their motive is not to earn profit, but the development of economic condition of its members. That means a cooperative society is formed, and then they all together are forming a cooperative society, and then this society will ask for loan from the bank, and from there when they get the loan, that loan is used for the betterment and the economic development of the condition of the member. Those members who are taking the loan from the cooperative society, they have to repay the loan slowly and back with low rate of interest. Then this cooperative society, along with the rate of interest and the money, will be giving or paying back the loan which the cooperative society has taken from the bank. So this way they are doing it so that it is helpful for the illiterate people and rural areas and small industries to get the money. Right? Now there is one more group known as self-help group. This is not cooperative, this is something different. How they do is, it's a small group where 10 to 20 people are together from the same locality. Now what is the main purpose of this group is to help the members for economic well-being as it is done in cooperative society. Now here, what happens is they either carry some collective business or they create a fund to lend to the needy member, and the government encourages such groups by arranging bank loan at subsidized rate of interest. So this group of 10 to 20 people, they together apply for a bank loan, and then government always encourages such group and allows the bank to arrange the loan for the self-help group and also in very low rate of interest. And then this self-help group, if they are into one business, they use that money for capital, or if any other member from the group needs the money, they lend the money to the member, and the member slowly and gradually has to pay back the amount along with the rate of interest, but the rate of interest will be very less. So other than informal sectors, we are having self-help group, we are having formal sectors, we are having cooperatives, which helps the farmers to get the money, or which helps the rural people or illiterate people to get the money. So that's on this chapter. So we have learned different types of societies, we have learned different types of formal and informal sectors, we have learned their advantages and limitations, we have seen how the role of credit is helpful in development, we have seen what is credit, different modern forms of money and how do they have purchasing power, and how with the help of this money we are able to assist things easily. We have learned about check, what is a check, the features of check. Then we have seen different other modern forms of monies like demand deposits. We have learned about different types of deposit accounts like fixed deposit account, recurring deposit account, then savings deposit account and current deposit account. These were the four major types of deposit accounts which we have learned. We have learned about what is demand deposit and what is term deposit. We have learned about the main functions of bank as depositors and borrowers. We have seen the functions of bank. We have seen what is bank, other names for modern currency, how the modern currency has come to India, what are the functions of money. We have learned about before money, what were the modern coins. We have learned about the metallic money. We have learned about cattle money, commodity money. Examples we have seen, limitations of cattle money and commodity money we have seen. Then we have learned about need of double coincidence of bonds, because of which there were limitations in the barter system, where earlier there was no proper medium of exchange and people used to exchange their goods in return of the other. We have seen advantages and main features of barter. We have learned what is emergence, or how did emergence of exchange took place with the growth of civilization, and how did money evolve. We have learned about how money is important in our life, right? So that's it. I believe you understood the chapter. So thank you.